Hi, this is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and this is the MTC Report.
It is ticking now as I speak. So are y'all with me?
Yeah! This is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and I'm reporting from Seattle, where thousands of people are getting ready to take to the streets as part of a community response to the election of Donald Trump.
Welcome to the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield. We offer you independent voices and underreported stories about topics you won't hear anywhere else. Join us as we delve into the deeper issues behind the news stories of the day on the MTC Report.
The Adventures of Bernie Sanders, Episode Number 3. Bernie versus the Pirates.
Aye, mateys. Once upon a time, Bernie Sanders decided to search for the pirates. So he sailed his ship through treacherous waters, searching for the corporate pirates who brought danger and chaos. He finally found them one day on a private desert island where they were hoarding their precious gold.
Pirates identified. South by Southwest.
Shiver me timbers. You know, we are like really rich.
Unhand him, you scallywags.
He witnessed their evil deeds and swore he would defeat them. Soon a battle ensued between his crew and the corporate pirate raiders. And after many fierce battles, Bernie defeated the pirates and convinced them to stop their corporate raids on the innocent and helpless victims of their crimes. He forced them to steer the ship of state in another direction, away from greed, corruption, and war, bringing balance and peace to the planets.
Okay, well, whatever I thought, like stealing from people was really super cool, or whatever. So, whatever. Like, you know, like, whatever.
Hi, this is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and this is the MTC Report. I'm a journalist living in Seattle, also a musician, and I've written at Huffington Post, I write at Daily Kos, I have a column at the Capitol Hill Times, and I'm a weekly guest on the Jeff Santos Show, broadcasting from Boston all across the country. Today I wanted to talk about Seattle May Day 2017, which I reported on for several national media programs, including the Tom Hartman Show, and KBOO in Portland, Democracy Watch News, and other news agencies. But here's the deal. Seattle's 2017 May Day protests didn't produce the kind of exploitative corporate news media coverage that we normally see. Relatively little property damage or violence was committed by demonstrators. Lacking were the usual videos of dumpster fires, broken bank windows, and vandalism at Starbucks. I'm sure management at corporate media outlets were a bit disappointed to learn that they would have to concentrate their coverage on riots in Portland and Olympia. In fact, the plan for local protesters this year seems to have been keep it mellow. Instead of the rowdy anti-capitalist marches, a major demonstration celebration was staged outside of the King County Juvenile Detention Center. The only significant May Day controversy came when protesters confronted Trump supporters in Westlake Park, leading to several arrests. The question I'd pondered leading up to May Day events was this: how would a major confrontation between local protesters and police be relevant to what's going on in the White House and Congress? If we're so busy fighting within our own community, how can we possibly be effective in combating the neo-fascism spreading across much of the rest of the country? The real news here is the unprecedented numbers of marchers who took to the streets in Seattle this year. Organizers had predicted 50,000 participants. I don't know the actual number, but the march seemed to retain the momentum inspired by the amazing Women's March, where some observers estimated that over 130,000 people in Seattle had participated. So folks were feeling strong and unified on May Day this year. There were multiple independent marches that joined the main march with El Comité at Judkins Park, and then this huge crowd of people took their voices and their stories to the streets of downtown, and then to a large rally at Seattle Center, where the Space Needle is located. So the mass resistance to Trump's administration and its nationalistic jingoism and prejudice is real, and it's growing very fast. At the Seattle Center rally, a senior woman asked me if I thought the large marches happening across the country would have any real effect on national policy. She told me she'd been a peace activist during the Vietnam War.
So that when the next vote comes tomorrow, or 2 years from now, or 4 years from now, or every single year we choice, every single day we have to make a choice.
My answer was yes, if only because of the vast number of participants, because it's very difficult to ignore such a strong movement, even if most of their power is literally out there in the streets and in their local communities rather than in the vaunted halls of Washington, D.C. These kinds of mass gatherings inspire a sense of community and strength among a lot of people who feel left out and marginalized by our present political system. Since loneliness breeds desperation, I think it's a good thing that people meet in large groups to march and rally together. This is how organic personal and organizational networks are formed. Face-to-face meetings lead to collaborative projects. Personal contact is often much more effective and sustainable than most online social networking. Families and communities are created which are based on authentic, mutual, and cooperative goals. And people start to realize that they're not alone in their beliefs and in their ambitions, so they begin to feel strength through numbers. So perhaps the spirit of the movement is actually much more important than any specific political issue that might be addressed. If the cultural milieu is to change in this country, people will have to join together in mass movements and form highly organized advocacy campaigns. Our political opposition in the White House has the power of the federal government in their hands. We have only ourselves and our personal, professional, and community networks, along, of course, with an unyielding dedication to a just cause. Now, this may seem like a David versus Goliath scenario, but remember who won that battle.
People said I had no other choice, or I had to hide.
This is the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield.
We can have a world-class healthcare system without waiting lines.
He demeans and degrades women and openly boasts about molesting them. He's a champion. Yeah, boo that. This guy's a champion of white supremacy who has insulted and threatened black people and has whipped up a racist lynch mob mentality. He's mocked the disabled. He's an aggressive and unapologetic militarist.
Don't go anywhere. The MTC Report with Mark Taylor-Canfield continues next.
The demonstrators are chanting "Block Trump." This is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and I'm reporting from Pike Street and 10th in Seattle, where people have taken to the street, and there's a confrontation going on here with police after Donald Trump is elected President of the United States.
It's just disgusting to me, and I've seen this happen with Brexit, and I've seen this happen around the world, and it's just so saddening to me that this could possibly happen to our nation.
I'm definitely not proud of the decision.
I'm feeling pretty shocked, honestly, because I didn't think Trump was going to win. I don't think anybody really did. I don't know. I've always kind of believed the polls are always right, so they're not.
Is really the picture of the redneck American. That doesn't mean that we like Hillary Clinton. In fact, I think we are a little bit like the American people themselves, because they had to make a choice between two people they didn't really like, and that's a heavy problem.
He's a one-of-a-kind guy, and I think America was ready for him because he steps out of the border, he says what he thinks.
Donald Trump won.
Seriously?
Yeah.
No, it's not true. Can I check it?
No one will improve the Palestinian issue.
I think it will be like 4 miserable years for the United States.
I want to check it out. Seriously? No.
We are surprised to see that you American people vote for a person like that.
What do you think? It's a joke.
It's not a joke.
Seriously? No, it's impossible.
It's true.
Oh my god.
This is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and I'm on Capitol Hill in Seattle on 10th and Pike Street, and people are starting to take the street. This is in reaction to Donald Trump's election as President of the United States. So here we go, folks.
Bullshit!
So here we go. We've got police lined up on the street.
Me too. I ain't even crossing. They want you for killing back. They trying to tell y'all.
Beautiful face, but she fell at a place, so she went downtown, 'cause she heard the sounds, parades and banners everywhere. Someone put a flower in her hair, so she marched along, singing protest songs. When the police tried to take her sign, she made a choice to hold the line. And when the tear gas started to flow, she felt the power of the people grow. Danny was a bright young boy. He was his mother's pride and joy. They said he was an anarchist, but he was just a kid, I guess. But he felt something totally new, so he walked off the job and joined the Sea Turtle crew in an hour or two. He burned his his Nike shoes. And when the police tried to take his signs, he made a choice to hold the line. And when the tear gas started to flow, he felt the power of the people grow. And that's when they said, well, you can use your gas and your pepper spray, but nobody here's gonna go away. Yeah. That's when they said, well, you can call this a no protest song, but these are our streets and this is our home. And if you want the WTO, get out of the way. Said as she watched on the TV while the protesters bled, I think I've had enough. It's getting a little bit rough. So she bought a gas mask. It was a serious task, they were illegal now, but she had made a vow. They called them the raging grannies that day, and in the pouring rain they knew they had to stay. And when the rubber bullets flew, well, they knew what they had to do. And that's when they said, well, you can use your gas and your pepper spray, but nobody is gonna go away. That's when they said, well, you can call this a no protest song, but these are our streets, this is our home. And if you want the WTO, then get out of the way. Yeah, if you want the WTO, then by now you want to know, get out of the way.
Unite with people everywhere to build up resistance in every way you can. Don't stop, don't conciliate, don't accommodate, and don't collaborate. Donald Trump, he's won the presidency. Under his slogan, Make America Great Again, he's attacked Mexican and Muslims. He's threatened to deport millions. He incites people to fear and hate those who are different.
The demonstrators are chanting, "Block Trump." This is Mark Taylor-Canfield, and I'm reporting from Pike Street and 10th in Seattle, where people have taken to the street, and there's a confrontation going on here with police after Donald Trump is elected President of the United States.
He said the same thing when he ran for politics in Italy, and he would run Italy like he ran his companies. His companies were successful, but Italy not.
This is the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield.
I've been criticized saying that, let me say it again. I believe health is a right of all people. I will fight for a Medicare for all single-payer system. Second of all right? You want to talk about rationing? You got 29 million people in this country who have no health insurance. How's that for rationing? They can't go to the doctor.
Now here's a place you always need a lot of friends.
Protests in major U.S. cities after Donald Trump was elected President of the United States. In Seattle, Portland, and Berkeley, California, demonstrators took to the streets. Some blocked highways, some lit fires.
So here's my take on law enforcement and crowd control measures, and also press freedom during the May Day protests. I testified before the Seattle City Council on May 1st about this issue. Cooler heads have got to prevail as Seattle is to avoid the injuries and chaos associated with May Day and other local protests. Non-confrontational crowd control methods must be adopted by law enforcement agencies. Journalists have been arrested or injured by police crowd control devices while trying to do their jobs. Seattle Times reporter Paige Cornwell was injured by an SPD flash grenade while covering May Day protests in 2015. And during the 2013 protests, ABC News reporter Hannah Scott was pepper sprayed by the police. So while acting as a reporter for various news agencies and national media programs, I have also been subjected to pepper spray and flash grenades during major protests in Seattle. Last year, reporters at the local Fox TV station announced that they were considering the use of gas masks and body armor as a way to protect their journalists on May Day. In 2015, Seattle City Council Public Safety Committee Chairman Bruce Harrell was very critical of actions taken by SPD officers. He maintained that an overly aggressive arrest in the middle of a peaceful May Day march had contributed to the riot later in the evening. Police used crowd control devices on Capitol Hill that night, which resulted in injuries to photographers, citizen journalists, and reporters, including myself. Non-violent crowd control measures should be emphasized instead of the indiscriminate deployment of pepper spray, tear gas, flashbang grenades, or the use of excessive force during arrests. And by the way, the captain of the California State Park Police said just the other day that pepper spray is very dangerous and can have lasting damage and injury to people. Reporters Without Borders has ranked the United States 43rd in terms of press freedom in their 2017 Worldwide Freedom of the Press ranking. So according to RWB, the decline in our nation's global ranking is due in part to the fact that, quote, journalists were regularly arrested while covering various demonstrations across the country, unquote. So in order to avoid these unfortunate incidents, local law enforcement agencies should train their officers to respect the rights of journalists to be present at these events so they can document and report on the events as they happen. Although most professional journalists understand and accept the risks associated with covering May Day protests, an increased effort must be made to protect the rights of reporters so they can do their jobs without being subjected to dangerous crowd control devices.
Okay, this is Mark Taylor-Canfield at the May Day protest in Seattle, and the police are using concussion grenades That's what it looks like to me. I don't think it's tear gas. I think it's actually concussion grenades.
Calm down, calm down.
And as a journalist, I think it's time to get out of here. That looks like a pepper spray gun. Okay. So the police are taking over now. They are pushing the protesters back up on Capitol Hill.
So they're coming right now. Time to get up.
Oh, we have more concussion grenades going on. Oh, that hurt my ears. My ears are ringing now. Yeah, they're pushing everybody, media, everyone, up the street. And the cops seem pretty angry. They're getting closer. Yeah. Oh, I gotta get out of here. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield reporting from Capitol Hill in Seattle, headed up towards Denny Way. So the police decided to draw the line, and we are being attacked with concussion grenades by police. They're coming closer.
This is the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield.
I've been criticized saying that, let me say it again, I believe health is a right of all people. I will fight for Medicare for all single-payer system. Second of all right, you want to talk about rationing? You got 29 million people in this country who have no health insurance. How's that for rationing? They can't go to the doctor.
Given the current state of anger and unrest among many activists in the U.S. as a result of the election of Donald Trump as U.S. president, tensions are very high and emotions have been intensified during rallies and demonstrations lately. Yet despite isolated incidents of property damage and acts of mass civil disobedience, the First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, assembly, and the press must be maintained. Protesters must be free to march, and journalists must be allowed to film and report on these historic events without fear of arrest or injury. As we know, Amy Goodman was arrested at Standing Rock while covering a protest there. And there was also an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, documentarian, who was arrested there. And these are politically motivated arrests, and they must stop now. Reporters Without Borders points out that Donald Trump has described the press as, quote, an enemy of the American people. If law enforcement agencies overreact and use crowd control devices against reporters, camera operators, and photojournalists, they may be accused of supporting Trump's anti-press attitude. So how the city's leadership in Seattle and law enforcement agencies here handle these situations could set a very good example for other communities to follow, or it could lead to serious injuries and major civil rights lawsuits. So I'm urging our city officials and our police department to show restraint, because protection of the rights of the press should be a major priority during protests and at all other times. This is Mark Taylor-Canfield for the MTC Report.
This is the MTC Report, the news behind the news with journalist Mark Taylor-Canfield.
I've been criticized saying that, let me say it again, I believe health is a right of all people. I will fight for a Medicare for all single payer system. Second of all right, you want to talk about rationing? You got 29 million people in this country who have no health insurance. How's that for rationing? They can't go to the doctor.
Now here's a place you always need a lot of friends.